Hey, Bad Bunnies, it's September, it's the vlog. I am going to talk about very little. So, a couple things before we get started on the game updates. I was featured on a live play podcast of Bunkers and Badasses on the Friends of Foe Adventure Co. So, if you like that kind of stuff and you want to see me role playing game, you should check that out. And also, I am thinking about offering to do like a panel at Metatopia, but I haven't completely decided yet. I'm sort of on the fence between something about the way competitive games normalize hierarchical competitive like human nature, or potentially something about artificially generated artwork and the sort of moral and technological ramifications of that. I feel like I'm a little bit more qualified to speak on the AI artwork thing, and less qualified to speak on the hierarchical thing, but I don't see people talking about the hierarchical thing, and I feel like that's something we should be talking about. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll submit a panel for both. If you're curious about those topics, please let me know, and I could gauge interest that way. So in this month, the design work I did was mostly on VelociRapture. So what I managed to accomplish with that is that I finished all 18 of the mini games that I made for that. After some feedback, I was initially going for like this sort of creative meta critical thing about our modern games, but I think that was just a little too much and also too dissonant with the theming. So I instead opted to make very overt references to classic modern games. So there's a whole lot of references to games like Go Fish and War and stuff like that, along with a few like surprise like cameos. And that's been working out much better. It also helps to have a sort of baseline so people are sort of like, oh, I know this game. This is how it usually works. The rules kind of suggest a little different, but it kind of adds to that feel. And also, with that established sort of language, it makes it a little bit more accessible to people who've played games before, which, to be honest, are probably going to be the kind of people who play this game. But I feel like the rules are still simple enough that even somebody who's never heard of cheat would be able to play it. That being said, I still need to test all of them before I feel like this is something I'd be comfortable putting up on like itch.io or whatever, but it's getting there. The other thing that had came out of playtesting was that the coping mechanisms are getting better. I've decided to make them a lot more centered on the play experience. So some of them would distract from it, and it was a lot more engaging when it sort of asked the players to engage with the game. It sort of created a space where all the players were trying to engage in the same thing and interact that way. Because if it was like pontificate morality or something like that, then that player wasn't really engaged with what everybody else was doing. They were just doing this performance while everybody else was doing their own performance. So by tying all the coping mechanisms into the human games, it makes sure that there's that interaction between the players. And there's also this curious thing where on repeat plays, which is where a lot of people feel like they're not sure if the game has value there I've noticed that the best experiences was when one person had a coping mechanism that was like, take the game very seriously, enforce the rules, make sure nobody cheats. And somebody else had a coping mechanism that was like, cause chaos, break the rules, ruin the game for everyone. So I'm thinking about, I haven't tested this yet because the deadline is like today. So I haven't tested it yet, but I was playing with the idea of maybe making it so that some of the coping mechanisms had to be paired with other ones, sort of like how in Root you always make sure there's like at least one or two heavy factions, something sort of like that. Make sure there's always at least one or two serious coping mechanisms. So yeah, I'm happy with the direction that game is going. So that's VelociRapture. I didn't do any other design work this month, but I did submit like a bunch of stuff. So Pax Unplugged has this thing, this showcase thing. So I submitted a bunch of videos for that. So for example, I submitted Persuasion to that, but also decided I should probably submit my other pitch ready stuff. So I made a pitch video for Unraveled along with a playthrough, and I also created a playthrough for Opacity, and I'm submitting a showcase for that as well. So this month was like a whole lot of video editing because I forgot to mention it, but I also had to make a pitch video for VelociRapture for the button check contest. So that was like 3 videos plus this one right now. That's a lot of video editing. I am not a video editor. I am a computer nerd and game designer. So this was a lot of video editing for me. And that's it. So a very short vlog for this month. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a lovely day. Ciao. Bye. Bye-bye now. Bye. Bye, Bad Buns. I'm going to call you that from now on. Bye, Bad Buns.